And we are live. Hi, this is Sherry Sims, founder of Black Career Women's Network, and thank you for tuning in for another career conversation this Wednesday. Today's career conversation is about leading from where you are with our special guest, new BCW and career mentor, Zena Thomas. Zena Thomas is also an HR professional. She's a blogger, and she is a new author of a book called Her Savvy Career. And she also has a website called Her Savvy Career, and you can also tweet her tonight at Her Savvy Career on Twitter as well and ask her some questions related to our tonight's topic. Just a little bit I want to share with you about Zena. Of course, I've already shared with you that she has her own website. She's an author and an HR professional, and she's dedicated to helping women navigate through the world of the workplace. We all know about the workplace, and this is what we're all here for, is to share tips and tools to help you to be successful. And she's a certified human resources professional. Do you have your PHR? Is that what you have, your PHR?
My PHR and the new SHRM CP, whatever that means.
Okay, awesome. She has a degree in marketing and human resources management, and her experience is working with tech startups, Fortune 500 companies that allow her to provide advice on a wide range and scope of work and related issues, both in HR management, but also in management perspectives as well. So she's going to give you some great tips and tools in terms of leadership tonight in leading your way, because we all know you don't have to be a leader to lead, right, Zena?
Right.
So again, we're going to be talking about her book at the end of our Google Hangout tonight, but it is The Savvy Girl's Guide to Getting the Job. Just so you'll know, for those of you who might want to look it up and kind of check it out prior to us kind of talking a little bit about it at the end of our career conversation. So let's go ahead and have Zena lead into our conversation. I know she wants to share some things about leading where you are. And before we go into some of the points that she'll be sharing, or the tips in reference to tonight's conversation. So without further ado, Ms. Zena Thomas, take it away, lady.
Oh, hey, Sherry. I'm so excited to be here with you and your community. You know, I really have embraced it, and it's been a wealth of resources. So I'm so excited to have the honor of talking to your community today. So excited.
Well, we're glad to have you here. So tell us, share with us. Let's talking about leading your way, because some of the things that from the excerpt or the kind of like a little snippet of talking about leading your way, there's some things that was very important that you wanted to share with our community that's watching tonight in reference to why this is important. Different points.
I think it's so important, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is, a lot of times we think in order to be a leader, you have to be a manager, or you need to be managing people. You need to be an entrepreneur. You need to have staff under you. And that's absolutely false. I think that the quickest way to elevate your career is through leadership. And you can do that from where you are. If you're sitting at the front desk, if you're sitting in your cubicle, no matter where you are in your career journey, you can lead. And that's really going to be pivotal in you getting to the next step. Like you mentioned, I'm in HR. I see people come and go. I see people in all levels of their career. And that's the one thing that really stands out about a person that makes them more competitive, which makes them a hot commodity in the workplace. So I want to, if people don't get anything else from this conversation, I want you to know that you can start leading today. And I'm going to talk about, where to start and how we can get you on the path.
So good, let's jump right in with number one, because we only have an hour, so we got to squeeze it all in.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get rocking. So the first thing is creating core values. And I mean, it's so important. We talk about it, and organizations have core values written on the wall. This is what we stand for. This is what we do and why we do it. So we as individuals, and we're all independent contractors running the personal business of me, should have core values. And the funny thing is, I did not realize I had core values until about 3 or 4 years ago, when my former bosses would, say things about me that were consistent, that I didn't realize that I had been exhibiting throughout my career. And then I realized that, I was establishing core values based on what I believed in. And it was something that other people noticed and became a part of my professional reputation. So a couple of years ago, I was like, okay, I see this trend. what is this? And I decided to like sit down and really see, okay, what do I stand for? What do I want Zena to stand for as a professional that's going to make me stand out? And really what that was creating core values. What do people say that are true about you regardless? 5 years from now, they remember that, this person stood for this, or this is something that they consistently do. So the easiest way to build that is to actually sit down and develop core values for your career.
Yeah, and I think core values are important because, again, like you said, it's about what you stand for, but it's also related to you thinking about, are your values in alignment with the company's values, and so making sure and looking at that and analyzing if you both are going to be on the same page in terms of what's going to work for both of you. So you do have to start with what you stand for. You have to start with the values before you can do anything else, because if you don't know who you are as a professional, how can you be a leader if you don't know who you are?
Absolutely. And the thing about establishing core values, I think the biggest thing that made the biggest difference for me is once you establish core values, just like with the company, it guides you in every decision you make going forward. So when you decide that, I'm all about team spirit, you're not going to work for a company that's very individualistic, where everybody's just out for themselves. That when you go on your job search, that's not what you're looking for. If you're all about, making money and money is your primary motivator, then that's the type of jobs you're going to look for. So once you establish your core values, every decision you make, even as an entrepreneur, it helps you decide who you will work with, who you won't want to work with, who you're going to partner with, who you hire. So, really sitting down, picking 4 or 5 core values that you can stick with throughout your career is going to guide you, help you in all of your professional decisions, and really tying into your personal life as well. It'll help you in your decision making.
Yeah, and you have to be clear on the decision making process when it comes to the choices you make in your career, accepting that job offer, all those things, because these are things that the decisions you make should be taking you to the next level each time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you have to be able to make sure that those core values are going to be in alignment and that are conducive to what your future plans are for yourself.
Yeah.
So now that we talked about this leadership piece, let's talk about the leadership piece in terms of the leadership mindset. Let's spend some time on that.
Yeah. So I think as an HR person and touching, a lot of people at once, one thing in determining that you want to be a leader is that you have to turn the switch off in your head and say, I'm going to have a leadership mindset and I'm going to think like a leader. And that means kind of stepping back and thinking about things from a business perspective. What's good, what would business leaders think, and not just what I would think as as an employee. You want to think like a manager before you become a manager. You want to think from the business perspective, before you get there, because then once you get in that mindset, it makes it easier and people already see you as a leader. Once you switch that light off in your head. So I think once you decide that you want to be a leader, once you decide that you want to take your career to the next level, you definitely want to change your mindset and start making decisions from a leadership point of view.
And let's kind of dive into that just a little bit further, because and it's so our viewers have a little bit more clarity in what you mean. This is for people who may not necessarily, they're not in a manager role. Okay, we're talking about having a leadership mindset and attitude about the role you're in now, taking charge, owning your career, doing what's necessary to develop yourself. Changing the mindset of the leadership. Everything that you do that you're focusing on, that's leaving that mark of leadership behind.
Yeah.
So I mean,
get specific with it.
Elaborate on that for our viewers a little bit.
So for me, once I decided that I wanted to be a leader, my behaviors changed. As simple as who I associated with at work. I wanted to associate myself with other leaders or other professionals. How I decided that I wanted to model positive behavior. So that means showing up on time. That means maybe staying a little bit later when I can. That means helping other people out. It meant volunteering for things. It meant giving my opinion. It meant, in budgeting, just thinking from a management point of view. In the decisions I made, I was making them thinking as a leader and not just as an employee in terms of how will this just affect Zena, but how will this affect the team? How will this affect the organization? So, and I think that ties back to your core values and, changing your mindset. One thing I'll think about for me was in setting my core values, integrity was a really big thing. I wanted people to walk away and say, she, is ethical. She's going to do the right thing all the time. I didn't ever want there to be a doubt in my mind, in anyone's mind. And that was kind of leading by example. And I haven't managed people directly in maybe about 10 years. So you can be a leader without managing people just by modeling leadership behaviors.
Yes, and so that's something that's good to write down, viewers, is that modeling leadership behaviors is very important. And that can set you apart from your coworkers, if you're from your peers, doing the exact same roles or the exact same circles at work. And that would help you to stand out, being able to have that mindset. And I think one of the things is being consistent, like you said, in that behavior across the board,
right.
How you treat others as well. So let's talk about this constant improvement. Share with our viewers what you mean by constant improvement.
I know the difference between leaders and non-leaders. Leaders are always growing. They're always looking for opportunities to go to the next level, take it to the next step. And what I want to tell everyone is listening, don't wait for your company to develop you. Don't wait for your company to give you the training that you think you need or provide you with the tools that you think that's going to take you personally to the next level. Because like I said, we're all independent contractors now. So that means you have to take control of your own career and decide, hey, I want to be one of the top accountants in the DC area. I'm going to take my CPA. I'm going to make sure I get certified. I'm going to get on this board of directors. I'm going to make sure I take these classes. I'm going to start me a blog where I talk about it. I'm going to network and so that everybody knows that I'm the top professional in this area. You have to take your career into your own hands, and constant improvement is one of the biggest things that leaders do that non-leaders don't.
And that's so true. And I talk about this all the time in the network on the Real Career Talk Tuesday calls. Mm-hmm. We've done numerous previous career conversations like these. Mm-hmm. What we talk about is your responsibility to develop yourself. You can't rely on your manager to do that. You will learn fairly quickly if you have a manager that's not someone who supports your professional development.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And you have to take it into your own hands, like you said, and be responsible. It's your responsibility and no one else's to develop yourself. And I always say, stay active in your career. And staying active in your career, part of that is your professional development.
Absolutely. So, and the one thing I want to share, I think that you have to read. I think reading is one of the biggest ways that you learn and grow. And like you say, stay active in your career, because things are changing all the time. And that little bit of information, feeding your mind, feeding your career every single day is going to make you stand out as a professional. It's going to make you a leader because you're leading by example. And when somebody hears, even though the company may not be paying for it, but somebody hears, I'm studying for this test. I'm trying to take my own career to the next level. They're like, hey, she has initiative. Wow, she's not worried about what we're doing here. Hey, let me make sure that she's happy, because obviously she's active in her career. So she's becoming more marketable. So that puts the light bulb off in management's mind that you're becoming more marketable. And then they start looking and saying, how can we elevate her here instead of her taking those new skills to the next place? So that's something that people don't talk about. But when you invest in yourself, the people around you notice. They start talking, like HR. We start talking and saying, oh yeah, she's working on it. Let's see what we can do to keep her, versus her taking those skills to another organization.
Yeah, and that is so true. But you also need to not be naive and think that because you're doing it, that it's automatically going to be seen or noticed.
No.
You have to get that recognized. Mm-hmm. And if you get it recognized that you are taking the initiative to improve yourself and develop yourself, and you're still not getting this feedback that you're needing or the responses that you're looking for in terms of them being able to open up and say, well, let's really look at that. Right. Then you also need to say, okay, my 3 big words, explore your options.
I'm all about it, girl. I'm all about it. Absolutely. And that's the investing in yourself makes you more marketable, whether it's there or someplace else, but it does allow them to look at you in another light while you're still there. So if that's something that you want to pursue, then that's great. But continue to invest in yourself, continue to learn, continue to grow so that you have the tools to take your career to the next level.
You have to stay, like I said, this is all a part of staying active in your career, bottom line with that. So let's talk about goal and game plan. So, kind of elaborate on that. What were you thinking about, or what do you want to share in terms of goal and game plan when it comes?
So now that you're in this leadership mindset, right? So we're thinking from a leadership point of view. We're thinking about our next steps. We're thinking about where we want to be next year and 2 years from now. You want to create a game plan. You want to create goals. And they're important because you want to grow. So you got to figure out, how am I going to get there? So you want to create stretch goals. So if it's, hey, I know, for me at one time I was like, okay, by 40, I'm going to be making $100 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Over time that became 35, it's like, so you want to create these stretch goals, and then you want to line that up so that you can get there. So that falls into the continuous improvement, the continuous education. Do I need to get a certification? Do I need to go get another degree? Do I need to start networking? Do I need to get on a board? Do I need to become more active in my community? So you want to create these goals. And I like to create big goals and then break them down into really smaller goals. So I may have a 10-year plan, and it may be financial. It may be a title. It may be some sort of freedom. I want to be able to work independently. I want to not have a boss. I want to be able to, go to my kids' soccer game. This is a lifestyle that I'm thinking about in terms of my goal. And then I break it down to the year and then down to the month. How am I going to get there? So is that by excelling in my role? I'm going to make sure that on my next performance review, I'm getting a 3% raise. So that means that my performance is on point, Yeah. So you want to break it down to that level and really work the plan. It's so important. If you don't write it down, if you don't create these goals, then you're swimming without no direction.
No direction, yeah. And I agree with you. You have to write it down and refer back to your plan, revise it, move some things around, shift it, whatever you need to do, but keep the goals in mind. And I always say, as you're developing yourself in your career, you need to be keeping, what is your end result? Keep that end result in mind as you go through these challenges in your everyday life, or the workplace, or what have you. Keep that end result in mind of what it is exactly you want to do, because that's going to help you get through these daily challenges of life.
Right. It's important. I think we always talk about, once you decide that you want to take your career to the next level, you hear a lot about goals and game plans, but it's important to be able to pivot and change. It's okay if you wanted to be the VP of marketing and to decide that you want your own marketing firm, or decide that you just want to be creative and do that on the side. It's okay to switch up your game plan at any time, as long as you switch up your game plan, create new steps, new milestones to that new plan. But don't be afraid to totally change course. It's fine. We do it all the time.
Yeah, we do it all the time. And Leah Jeffers is watching. Hey, Leah, so glad you're watching. Leah says, Sherry, it goes back to creating goals and milestones. And absolutely, you do want to benchmark your progress with date times. And if you don't meet that, don't see it as a failure. Just focus on pushing that to another date, and then kind of reconcentrating your efforts to meet that next deadline for that goal. Absolutely. So, don't look at it as, oh, wow, I didn't make that, because life does happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I say, put it in your phone. I live and die by my phone. I put it in my phone every quarter to recheck my yearly plans. Where am I to that? Do I need to remove something off the list? Do I need to add something off my list? You always have your phone with you, but it's so important to see those. You may say, oh, I don't even want to do that anymore. Or I knocked that out 2 months ago. Right. You know that you're hitting those milestones. So yeah, it's really, really important. Keep it visual, keep it in front of the mind, and continue to change and adjust.
Yeah, and you need to. And I think that goes back to what you had as far as number 3, which was executing, taking that plan and executing it. And again, whatever you can't, that you're not making, you're achieving those goals, move it and give it a new deadline.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the elevating others. I love this. And I know it's probably not on the list, viewers. I know your list is seeing, we're adding some things in there. So if you did elevating others on the list from the promo, but we are going to be covering all of those. But I want to talk about elevating others because I think this is so important to your success.
You know what? One of the reasons why I'm on this call today is for my passion of helping others and elevating others. And I didn't realize that it's been so instrumental in my career because of what makes a leader different. So you being a leader today in your career would be your ability to help the others around you. Mm-hmm. You know, your ability to uplift others. Managers get promoted based on their people getting promoted. So if you see directors, they get promoted based on how many people they made managers. You know, CEOs are rewarded based on the performance of their managers and them getting better. So if you want to be a leader in your role, you need to not just upgrade yourself, but upgrade everybody around you, everybody on your team. And I think that's one of the easiest ways to step up. So once you excel in your role, so, you may be working in an accounting position, maybe, a mid-level position, and you're excelling in your role, help out your coworker, start mentoring them, coaching and developing them, teach them the tips and the skills that you've learned on the job, show them how to do it the right way, watch them progress over time. And guess what? You can put that on your resume that you coach and develop team members, that you help somebody move to the next level. That's how people start looking at you in a leadership role, but you don't have any manager. I mean, you don't manage anybody, but you can still lead them and share your expertise and share your knowledge and uplift them. You want to be selfless and not so selfish in your career. I think that's one of the biggest ways that us as a community can really help us all take it to the next level.
And that it's so true. And I think what happens is that, you have managers who don't want to do that. They're so afraid someone's going to take their job and they bring this energy into these roles and not helping to develop people. So I think this is so important to talk about. And then being clear to understand that, yes, your goal may not be to be a manager because not everybody's made to be a manager. Okay.
Right.
This is real, but you still can have leadership qualities without really having to have that title. Absolutely. And that to me is what a true leader is. They don't have to have that managerial title or really lead a team to be successful, because you can motivate others and influence people without having to be in that role. And that's what makes somebody impactful. You can have someone they're all the same level, they're peers, but there could be one person in that team of peers that everybody goes to.
Absolutely.
That is the influencer. That is the influencer in the group. And so we want to make sure for clear people like, I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to, have direct reports. That's fine, but you still can be a leader in whatever it is that you're doing. So just keep that in mind when you're elevating someone, because it's so important to do that. And I think sometimes as a community, we lack that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And specifically when we get to these leadership senior level, roles, these executives, it's like, okay, where are you? We have people down here who would love to be able to learn from what you learned from, to be able to grow and grow and learn from you, to be able to develop and be what they want to be. So I think when you get to that level, sometimes it doesn't come back down the way it's supposed to.
And that's the difference between a leader and a great leader. Great leaders take it to the next level. They're mentoring, they're sharing their knowledge, they're sharing their expertise. They want to see all of us grow, because we can all grow. We can all be bosses, maybe not at the same place, but we can all be bosses. We can all run the show. We can all uplift each other. I think it's so important. And you don't have to be a manager, but like you mentioned, when you have that influence, you become invaluable. When you become that go-to person, you got that knowledge, you have that leadership mindset, you lead by example. People want to work with you. People think about you. They think about you for opportunities you haven't even thought of or don't even know exist when you follow that regimen.
And that's so true. And I say that a good leader provides, they provide resources, they provide a vision for the people that work for them, or even if they're leading. You know, you want to give them the vision of where they're going to go. You're going to provide the resources for them to get there, and then support them in that once it happens. And so those are things that they need to be, you know, a lot of managers need to do, just leadership roles overall. And I think when you're elevating someone else, you do that. You do help give them the vision. You do help to provide resources and support for them to do that. So the elevating others, to me, I think is huge. I definitely wanted you to elaborate on that for our viewers, because I think if we all in the community have that mindset, like you said, we all can achieve what we want to, and still be able to have the coping skills necessary to navigate through the roadblocks that may come along the way.
Yeah, you know, Sherry, there's a quote by John C. Maxwell. He's one of the thought leaders on leadership. That I love, and he says that leaders are the ones who know the way, go the way, and show the way.
Right. Yep, that's right. You know, and if they're not doing that, you know, that's someone you definitely do not want to work for, because they probably got their foot on your neck and don't want you to go nowhere. Right.
And I think, you know, the reason why we have these conversations and the reason why we talk about leadership, because it's all about building your equity and becoming the professional that is valuable, that you know, you're building this equity within yourself, that you are valuable, and when you're in situations that you don't want to be, you got that value that you can take it somewhere else.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing, is having the self-worth to know that you can walk away from this and explore your options. You know, and say, I don't have to put up with this. You know, I'm taking me and what I bring to the table elsewhere. And being and standing firm on that. And that's what part of this is what it's all about. And I think that we do, for me, it's you do not get too comfortable where you are, because that can change and shift in a heartbeat. But what you do is stay very mindful of what you're bringing to the table, who you are, being confident in that. So if there is a shift that happens in the workplace, layoffs, terminations, maybe maybe you're end up in a situation that maybe not be in a good light, not that you should be, but it's just that you never know what can happen. You need to be able to know who you are and be confident enough to say, you know what, this is enough, and be able to walk away from that and feel like you haven't lost anything, and that you've gained a lot from what you've experienced in that role, how long you've been there, and take that somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think that
the stock is in you. The stock is not what you work for. The stock is in you. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean is, the stock is that it's you who's taking what you have and moving on. It's not because you're working at ABC company is what's making you valuable. It's what you're bringing to the table and your skill sets and who you are. And that goes with you wherever you go next.
Yeah, and I think, in talking about executing your game plan, you have a plan, but you have to do your job. You have to rock that job. You have to be the best. You have to execute. You need to go above and beyond. If you're not in a leadership role or a management role, and that's something that you desire, then you have to be the best. You have to be on point. You have to be so good that you do your job really well, so that people think about you for other opportunities. And I think sometimes we fall short on that. We think, I've been here for 3 years, I'm ready to get promoted. But maybe you're not great. Maybe you're just okay. So if you really want to go to the next level, you have to be great. You have to do a good job. You have to be consistent with it. And I've fallen short to that before, where I thought I was the bomb, and then I was going through lulls where sometimes I was just totally disengaged. I didn't really care, and I showed inconsistency. So while I thought I was doing really great for 3 months, and then I had 2 months where I really didn't care, that's showing leadership that I'm not consistent. I'm not reliable. I'm not executing my game plan. I'm not on point. I'm not the bomb. And they're not going to think about me for a leadership role.
But you also need to balance that, though, Zena. You need to balance your being the best at what you do, along with having great relationships at work with the right people.
Absolutely.
And because if you don't have, you can be the best worker there is, but if you don't have the right relationship with the right people, you can continuously be overlooked. regardless of that, because it takes more than just doing a damn good job at your job to get promoted.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the way it is. It takes more than just that. Yeah, you want that good work to get noticed. You want them to see your core values for what they are, if they're in line with the companies, but it definitely takes more than just hard work to get to that next place. And you have to have the right relationships too.
That should be a part of your game plan.
Absolutely. So I like it. Let's talk about the living. I think this is living the values. Living the values.
Yeah. So, you know, we established the core values, you know, so what does that mean? They're on paper. We decided, you know, this is what I stand for. But what do you do with that? You know, how does that actualize in your everyday life? You really want to live your core values, make that a part of who you are. And it goes back to the consistency. You know, it's like, you know, what do you believe in? Hopefully your values don't include, you know, lying and chilling and stealing,
right.
Because, you know, you can't do any of those things and get ahead. But if you value transparency, you want to make sure that you're consistent in that in everything you do. You know, if you value collaboration, then you want to make sure that throughout your career, you exemplify your values. And sometimes, you know, we lose track, but I know a lot of your career conversations, we circle back to branding, and that's how you brand yourself, by actually living your core values consistently every single day. You know, it's how people remember you, it's how they think of you when opportunities come up. So as a leader, you want to, you know, of course, lead by example, but through your core values, so that you're elevating your career. You know, you want somebody to think, when they think of you, you want them to think of certain things. You know, 5 years from now, you want them to remember you based on, you know, your work and kind of feel a certain way. Maybe when they hear about opportunities, they think, oh, Sherry would be great for that. You know, I worked with her 5 years ago and I know she's an expert at this. Or I know she will never let you down. You know, she was always on time. You know, she always did the right thing. She always helped out her team and took us to the next level. Those are the type of things through consistency and establishing core values that help you get the next job.
Yeah, you're right. And you have to staying focused on that. And like you said, it's about walking the walk. You know,
absolutely.
Or as you know, as the old saying goes, don't talk about it, just be about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not easy, and it's going to take, you know, it's going to take some time, but I do think, well, I know that it's important. And like you said, it goes back to the relationships and kind of establishing those relationships, being consistent, people knowing what you're all about. And that's going to be how you continue to take your career to the next level. It's through those relationships, maintaining those relationships, living your core values over time consistently.
Right.
It's going to be how you get those next opportunities, and you can do all of that through leadership.
And so, viewers, make sure that if you're watching the Google Hangout in Google Plus, please tweet your please put your questions or type your questions in our Q&A box. Or if you are watching live from our website, please tweet your questions to Her Savvy Career, or you can tweet them to BCW Network CEO, either one. And so that way, Zena and I can answer any of your questions.
You know, I live on Twitter, child. So if you guys want to tweet me, I'll definitely respond. I'm really active in that community.
Yeah. So her Twitter handle is at Her Savvy Career. So let's take a little time to talk about your book.
Yes, my book, The Savvy Girl's Guide to Getting a Job, child.
Absolutely, The Savvy Girl's Guide to Getting the Job. Let's talk about that. So let me first ask you, what really was the trigger point for you to say, you know what, I want to write this book?
So, you know, I've been working in HR for like 9 years, and I mentioned to you earlier today, and I can, you know, be candid with my community, that I don't work around anybody that looks like me. There in my building, there's one person that looks like me. So, and I found myself helping out friends and family, giving them tips from an HR point of view, things that people never tell anybody.
Right.
From a management point of view that we just don't share. You know, people don't think to tell their friends and family certain things that's going to help them get a job. So that's why I started Her Savvy Career, which is my platform to provide tips and tools from an HR and management point of view. And a couple of months into that, I was thinking, you know, I need to put all of this information in a book, a go-to guide that you can just pull out and read and share with your girlfriend, with your mother, with your sister, to say, okay, I got an interview tomorrow. What do I need to do? You know, I'm trying to prepare my resume. What should it look like? You know, I'm putting in the application. What are the do's and don'ts? So that was my motivation behind writing the book, because I've been in HR. You know, I've seen people walking through the door and I'm like, girl, why did you wear that?
Or, yeah. I've got some horror stories of my own.
Or your email is Jungle Bunny 56. Are you kidding me? Like that still happens. And I just, you know, I wanted to tell all those things that will stop you from getting eliminated. That's going to put you on the top of the pile, because in the game, which it is a game of getting a job, you want to get that call back. You know, you submitting applications, you're doing your resume, all of that is for a little spark of interest from a recruiter. And then once you get that power of getting on the phone with them, then you have a little bit more control. But there's so many things that come before that may get you eliminated. So this is my HR perspective, point of view, short book that's going to tell you everything you need to know to help you get the job.
So I like that you have that, and I kind of flash back to something that when I used to be when I was a recruiting manager for a call center, and we had I had 3 direct reports. Two of them were interviewers, and I also was interviewing that day as well. And I interviewed this lady, and I liked her a lot, very professional. And she had understood the nature of the business. She worked in call centers before. I walk her out and said, I'll be in touch with you by the end of the week. In the back of my mind, I knew I was going to hire her, right? You know how you have to play the game. Mm-hmm. And I walk her out to the door, and then of course I said, okay, go ahead and you can give your badge to the security officer. Well, she gives her badge to the security officer, and I happened to be standing in the door because I saw another person coming in. And it was like my next interview. So as I'm standing there looking this way, and I look back at her, and she's giving him the badge, and it looked like she was trying to get her keys out of her purse. A bag of marijuana fell out of her purse onto the floor.
Oh my God! That is the worst case scenario. It's like the most horrible thing that could possibly happen.
And I was like, so she turned around to pick it up.
Oh my God!
And she saw me standing in the door. And she looked at me and she said, I am so sorry. And I said, I'm sorry too.
Oh, maybe it was ridiculous. Wow, that's,
You know, and I can tell you some more stories, but yeah, that's one.
It's so crazy. You know, it is a game. Like I was, one of the things I think I mentioned in the book, or I know I've written a blog about it, is that people don't think about their relationship with the receptionist. They don't think about when they're calling for directions, or maybe just calling to get the email, the person they interviewed with, or when they're sitting in the lobby, that behavior. When I was interviewing, I would always, once the person left, ask the person at the reception desk, what did you think? And they would tell me exactly if that person was polite, if they was rude, if they called 50 million times, if they were disrespectful, you know, if they were, you know, had a crazy conversation on the telephone in the lobby, got all those details, and they affect your hiring decision.
Absolutely.
Treat somebody, that person, the receptionist, is a part of the decision. Like, she is a decision maker. You may not have known that, but she has influence with leaders. So, you know, that's one small thing that people don't think about, but it absolutely has an effect on whether you get hired or not. So what I do want to do is, while we have your community live, if you have any questions about getting a job, you know, you want the real from HR's point of view, you got me on the line. I'm more than happy to provide some perspective.
Yeah, and like I said, you can if you're watching live from Google Plus, just make sure you can use our Q&A box in the Hangout to type a question, or you can tweet your questions to Her Savvy Career or BCW Network CEO. And we'll be more than happy to answer those. But I think since we're in this realm, and we're going to recap with some of the points from leading where you are. But I think that when you're doing the interview process, and I remember specifically, when you pull up into that parking lot, game is on. Absolutely. It's game on. And when you get out the car, because you don't know who's watching from the parking lot, video cameras, any of those things. So, you've got to make sure that as soon as you pull up in that parking lot, game is on when you get out the car.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're walking in to that place and being mindful of these things. And, one of the things I used to talk about when I used to do job readiness programs was not getting too comfortable with the conversations. I was hiring a project manager, and I had the senior project manager with me, and we both were interviewing someone for this project they were about to do. And the guy, we loved his resume. We thought if he's anything like his resume when we meet him, then this is our guy. You know how that goes. Mm-hmm. And so we're talking to him, and everything is going great. And so, the senior project manager, I'm looking at like, man, this might be the guy. We're going to go ahead. We'll talk about this after the interview is over, And at the very end, as we'd said that we would be following back up with him by the end of the week, they were kind of cracking jokes a little bit about some things in terms of being out in the field and kind of some of the challenges they have and how they overcome those. And then at the very end, he says, well, thank you for the opportunity. You guys, look forward to meeting, to hearing back from you. And now I got to go home and deal with my effing wife. And he said the F word.
Oh gosh, these are nightmares.
And I was like, so we just kind of like laughed at it, kind of like the good old boy thing, and laughed at it. And then as soon as he left, I said, no, we're not going to hire him, because if he's using that kind of language here, he's going to use it out in the field.
Right. It goes back to lack of boundaries and lack of discretion. And then me as the HR person going to be dealing with him in a couple of months on the other.
You're going to be calling me later saying that we're going to have to bring him in and write him up.
Exactly.
Because he's out here cussing everybody out on the project.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all, and I think what you mentioned indirectly, which is really important for all of our job seekers out there, the package that you deliver is so important. Everything up to the interview, because Sherry, like you mentioned, when you get an interview, you're a top candidate. Mm-hmm. Recruiters and hiring managers are getting hundreds and hundreds of resumes. So that's why I said when somebody calls you back, when a recruiter calls you back, then you're in the top 10%. So that's when it's game on. You need to make sure you're on top of your game, because they're probably only seeing very few people at that point. So you don't want to eliminate yourself by doing something silly like cursing on an interview.
Yeah, and I think that candidates do not understand that part, because, talking as a former recruiter who has made, I've had up to 80 requisitions at one time. Mm-hmm. Okay, 80 requisitions is a lot. And then you have 80 requisitions, and an average requisition may have 100 and something candidates in it. And you have to go through all these resumes to find a top 2 to submit to a hiring manager, and you got to do a service level agreement for that and all the other stuff that goes along with it. You better believe that, you should look at that and say, wow, I made it through this pool. Yeah. Because the pool is so large that it could take you a half a day to go through 300 resumes just to get 2 people that you feel like are qualified to present. Absolutely. So I think that applicants don't see that on the other side. And it's so great that you mentioned that. Because if they start having that perspective to say, man, I got a call out of maybe 100 people that recruiter looked at, I'm going to be on point when I come to the interview, because I could have been passed over very easily.
Yeah, a lot of people get passed over. So when you get a call back, really look at that as you are the top of the crop. Like you are amongst the best. They're thinking about you. They gave you a second thought, because most people don't get a second thought. So if you get a second thought and you get a call, you want to be on. And then if they actually bring you in, your manager's time is valuable. It's money. So you're getting an hour of their time. Managers don't want to interview. Nobody likes to interview. You don't like to interview. Managers don't want to interview you. So if they're spending that time with you, that means they see something that they like, and they're hoping that you're the one. They already think you're the one. So now you got to prove it to them in that interview.
Yeah, and that's your opportune time to do that.
Yeah.
So I like that you shared that. What in your book itself, what is your favorite chapter in the book?
My favorite chapter is the non-negotiables. And I got this from the Millionaire Matchmaker. I'm like a reality queen. So the non-negotiables, before you start your job search, you need to know your non-negotiables. I think a lot of people go into a job search like, I need a job, and they just go submit a resume to everything, apply to everything, and you're wasting your time and your resources.
Mm-hmm.
One of the easiest ways to narrow it down is to create your non-negotiables ahead of time. And those are the things that you know you have to absolutely have, or you definitely will not deal with on a job. So like for me, I think about, of course, pay. I might think about location. I may think about the level of the position. For some people, title is important. Culture of the organization may be important. You want to have all that laid out before you start your job search so that you can tailor your job search. Because what happens is if you don't have that laid out, or you haven't really determined that, you're wasting your time and resources on opportunities that won't be a good fit. So you may even get to the interview process and realize that it's not a good fit. So either they're not going to select you, or you're going to decline the opportunity because you didn't determine prior what your non-negotiables are. So you don't want to be in the middle of an interview or have a potential interview on the table and realize that it's 70 miles away and you know you can't make that commute. That's something you should have already determined, prior to your job search. This is where I want to work in this area. Or I know that my next role is going to be a senior level position. I'm not going to take a lateral move. So that helps you tailor your job search.
Now, these are things I call this is what I call career empowerment. Mm-hmm. And for me, what the term I use in the network is in terms of career empowerment, because you have to, it goes back to knowing what you stand for. Mm-hmm. Don't accept a position that you know darn well is too far to go. It may not be the right pay, not enough money to get you there.
Oh my God.
And every job that you decide to accept needs to be taking you to the next level. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't keep you here. It should keep you going up one step. And that's your job, is to look at this and say, is this job going to take me to the next level? Right. Am I going to be flatlining?
Right.
It's what I call it, flatline, when you're not moving.
Right. And that's the reason why we talk about it is, and that circles back to the leadership. In your current role, building those leadership qualities, leading from where you are, gives you the empowerment to make those decisions. Mm-hmm. Once you get to a certain level, you can say you're not just looking for a job. Like, you built that equity, you're going to find the right job for you. You're going to have opportunities coming for you, and you feel more empowered to be, have more discernment in your choices.
But I always say, don't wait till you get to that certain place. Do you start that early? Because you want to be looking at the bigger picture, where you want to end at, where you want to land, mm-hmm. or where you want to go, or in 5 years you want to be here. So, yeah. Or in 10 years you want to be at a certain place. So then these opportunities that you take along the way need to be positioning you for that 10-year plan, or Absolutely. That 10-year goal, and you need to be working on that. So your question is, you should think about, is this job going to take me to the motherland?
Right.
Some point,
Right. It's going to take you to the next level.
Yeah, it's going to get you to the next level. You don't want to flatline. You don't want to flatline, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And nope. and then do what you're supposed to do to develop yourself in the meantime, that can position you for that next role that can take you to here. And while you're in that role, develop yourself even more, so that role can take you here. So that's where that staying active in your career comes into play, making sure that you're staying abreast of what's going on in your industry, making sure people know who you are in your industry.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't want to go to a networking event and then here's all these HR professionals, and they're start talking about people who work here and here and here. And you say, oh yeah, Zena Thomas, she works over at Xerox. Really? I didn't know she was over there. Who is that? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It is you should be constantly doing that, whether you're actively looking. It should be on your game plan to continuous learn, to continue to build that equity in your career, continue to take on leadership opportunities so that when you're ready for that next leap, or unbeknownst to you, the next opportunity comes knocking on your door, you're ready. Because that's really what you want to, that's really the position you want to be. When you establish yourself as a leader, opportunities come to you. I promise you that's what happens. People come to you, especially when you're active in your community, you're networking, you're building your brand. Because what happens is people leave organizations. So you have directors that leave. You have people that go on to other places, and then they remember you and be like, oh yeah, I used to work with Zena 2 years ago. Bring her on over here.
And that's what I mean by you want people to know who you are in your industry. You don't want to be an unknown who's doing all this fabulous work for this company, but the only people who know about it is your company. That's it. And no one else in the industry knows that you're doing this great work. So that's not expanding your brand and getting your name out there. So Leah says, absolutely. I love the idea of making a list of non-negotiables early on. Absolutely. It's just like your deal breakers, just like you said, Zena, from
That's like a relationship. You know what you're not going to take. You know what does not work for you. And write it down, establish that, and you'll be good to go. It really saves you a lot of time and headache, especially in the job search. I see so many, I had a friend who, was looking for a job. She was so excited. She got an interview, and she was asking me about it. I was coaching her through it. And the job was like, it was like 60 or 70 miles away. And I'm thinking, are you ready to move? Like, that commute is not going to work. You're going to be unhappy after a couple of weeks. The employer is going to be stressed because they're going to see that you're stressed with the commute. It's not going to work. Like, did you not think about how it's going to affect your whole life? Like, you definitely need to determine those things. And that's a small example, but it's something that's so, so important. I think sometimes people, when they're casting a wide net, they don't think about that. And
I think sometimes they do, but they're in denial about it, and they really don't want to confront the fact or be realistic and say, you know what, this isn't gonna work. And instead of just accepting that, they want to go along with it, hoping it's gonna change. And so you can't do that because you're playing with your time, like you said. And who wants to accept a job and then 30 days later you're looking for another one? Because I didn't look, and did nobody got time for that?
Ain't nobody got time for that. and that affects your professional reputation. Like if you knew you couldn't handle it, and you went through this time and really went out for this job, but it just didn't make sense. And that can happen. I had an employee. I almost died, Sherry. I swear I almost died. We asked her for feedback on the job she had started, might have been 45 days ago. And she said, unbeknownst to me, I took a $15,000 pay cut. I was shocked. I said, you took a $15,000 pay cut? I wouldn't have took no $15,000 pay cut. Did you not get an offer letter? Like, you're the only one that knew what you were making and knew what the new offer was. So there's no way that you did not know that. Now, you may not have known the effects of it, or you just wanted another job, but you're the only person that knows if this is something you can deal with. So that's BS. So you have to think
you can't do that, because remember I shared on the call yesterday about me taking the pay cut so I can make this career transition. But trust me, I thought long and hard about making that decision, but I knew where I wanted that to go for myself in the process. So when you make that kind of sacrifice, you definitely better be ready you better put the game plan together for what's going to happen next, so you can sustain. But you just can't say, oh, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and take a $15,000 pay cut and it's all going to work out. And you don't know, you have no clue how you're going to do it. That's not being realistic.
Yeah, you definitely, you have to be, if that's something that you can do, then that going in. If it's something that you can't do, you have to be realistic about your situation and establishing non-negotiables going into your search. You should go in with, okay, this is what I'm looking to make. This is my title. This is where I want to be. I want to lead a team. This is the type of culture, all of that going into your search.
Yeah, which means, and part of what Zena also means is that when you're in an interview process, you need to be asking specific questions to them as well. asking your manager, what is their management style? Describe your management style to me, because you want to make sure that this person is someone you can work with. And if you're a person who doesn't like to be micromanaged and this person micromanages, that might not be the manager that you need to be working for. And if this is your dream job and you have that kind of manager, how are you going to navigate and manage this type of personality when you know it's not conducive to who you are? So these are things that you should be asking. Again, this goes back to what I call a career empowerment, asking the right questions during that interview process. That's going to help you to make that decision, not just, what kind of benefits you got. You should have known that by reading their website, company website, put all that stuff on there. That should not be one of your questions when you're in the interview.
And I think another thing that you mentioned that kind of struck me is, with the career empowerment, it's important, you're interviewing each other, and just like a relationship, when somebody shows you who they are, listen. And especially, I think about from the HR perspective, like when you are a candidate in the candidate process, the company is showing you who they are. So if you're in an interview with somebody and maybe they're rude, or maybe they pick up their phone and take a phone call, or not respectful of your time, or short or not responsive and things like that, that might be the person that you're reporting to. Take that information back to you. Think about that in making your decision, because you are getting some interaction, maybe with the hiring manager and the person that you may be working with on a daily basis. And if you don't get the warm and fuzzies about working with them, definitely think about your decision before you.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I say, if you want to find out some things, ask some really striking questions. Be asking them to describe their management style. To me, is always one that throws them off, because they don't get that. They don't get people that ask them that, and they may not even be able to describe their management style to you, because they may not even know.
That might be why they're hiring. The last person quit.
You know what I'm saying? So you definitely need, that is definitely one of the major things I always say to clients. And when I volunteer and do work with the local nonprofit here, I always say that's one of the main questions you need to ask is, describe your management style to me. And you don't have to go into any 11 reasons why. Just ask the question and let them answer and see what their responses are, how they're responding to that question.
Absolutely.
That's always an awesome one to be able to gauge, like you said, because they're going to do two things. They're going to be like, no, they didn't ask me that. And they may respond, hesitate, think about it before they give you, an answer. But it's always good to look at their body language, and the same thing that they're looking at you on, you need to be looking at them. And like you said, their responses, because I'm sorry, I don't have time to be getting to a job and then I'm having to look for another one because I didn't do the proper screening to make sure this is going to be the right place for me.
Absolutely. But a screen that's a relationship. You're stepping into a new relationship. So you need to do your background work and, kind of feel good. You should have a good feeling about going into that new relationship.
Yeah. And I think too, that what you want to make sure you're doing is that, check out things like Glassdoor and find out what the reputation of those companies are. See what some of the feedback is from current and former employees. For those companies. And again, there's going to be some things you're not going to be able to gauge until you get in there, because you don't know about company culture, hidden workplace rules, and the norms. You can't gauge norms. You can't gauge hidden workplace rules until you get in the door and start working. And even though those things may be something you have to adapt to, if they're not in line with your core values, like you said, then there's going to be a problem. Absolutely. But you can't gauge that till you get in. So it's like you still could be walking into this war zone, but not really know until you walk in the door. So it's just a risk you take with any job that you walk into. You just don't know.
Yep. Do your homework, prepare, and be open, but definitely take that feeling back and evaluate it. You have that power to make the decision. You can interview. They can love you, but you don't have to love them.
Yep, it's called career empowerment, you guys. That's what that's called. At least that's what Sherry calls it in my world. I call it career empowerment.
Oh, girl.
It's part of what you definitely need to be working on. So it's 8:59. We got a couple more minutes. I wanted to share. Let's go ahead and share. Kind of go back and give the points that we talked about earlier, which is one is creating core values.
Yep.
Number 2 is leadership mindset. Number 3, constant improvement. Number 4, elevating others. Mm-hmm. Now we have 4 more that we had on the promos. We want to make sure we cover those too, which is goals and game plan, executing, living with value, and then again, creating core values.
Yeah.
Those are the ones to be covered from Leading Where You Are tonight with Zena Thomas. So just want to make sure that we covered those points again with you, just for the case that someone didn't write those down or jot those down, and we want to give those back to you. With Zena is a BCWA career mentor. So if you do want to reach out to her, yeah, she's like, whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
If you want to reach out to Zena, you can go to our website and go to Mentor and Coaches, and you can click on Ask Zena, and you can select from her topics of expertise and ask her a career-related question, and she'll be more than happy to answer that for you.
I love questions. I love, giving feedback, dealing with somebody's direct issue so we can get it solved.
Absolutely, and you can also find her at she does tweet. Okay, you guys. She is a Twitter queen, so you can also find her on Twitter at Her Savvy Career, and then her website is also hersavvycareer.com. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the website, blog, all that good stuff.
That's her blog, and then what you can do is also you can purchase her book from her website as well. So get her book, because it's always great to have those interviewing tips. Have to have that all the time. And then, of course, we want to make sure that we get Zena on one of our Real Career Talk calls and have her talk about her book. So we got to make sure we get that on the calendar so we can have her talk about some books in your book, have you as a guest on the call. So we got to make sure we get that on the calendar. So write that down in your phone. We got to get that on the books.
Yeah, I'll put it in my to-do. I'll put it in my to-do list. But I want to thank you for allowing me to share with your network. I love jumping on the calls and really talking to young women as they are navigating their careers and like really dealing with these issues. And you guys know that you have a community of experts here to really help you out. You're not going at it alone. I know a lot of times when you're working on a job, you might not have a confidant and not know how to handle situations. So definitely tweet me, visit the blog, check out the book. It's on Amazon, all that good stuff. I'll definitely respond. If you let anybody know, I will respond. I will email you back.
So we want to thank Zena so much for being on our career conversation tonight about leading where you are. So she will be back, because we always have our career mentors come back. So she's not going anywhere. I also want to say that for next week's career conversation, we're going to have Jacqueline Twilley on our career conversation. Jacqueline actually has been around with us for about a year now. We did a Google Hangout about a year ago with Jacqueline when her book first came out, Navigating the Career Jungle. So she's going to be back with us next Wednesday, and we'll be doing Navigating the Career Jungle Part 2, talking about some other things in reference to her book. And then also too, with Jacqueline is also a BCW career mentor, for as all of you already know, because she's done quite a bit of videos with us and some telephone calls. So she's quite active with the network. But she actually is going to be at our conference on Saturday, August 8th here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Our theme is Passion, Power, and Pursuit, and she is going to be doing a couple of breakout sessions and be sharing, and actually we'll have her book for sale at our conference. And so Leah says, Lady, thank you for this conversation. It's been excellent.
Yeah, girl.
You're welcome. We're so glad for your comments. So yeah, so Jacqueline truly will be on our career conversation next Wednesday at 8 p.m. And then next Tuesday is our Real Career Talk call. Don't know if we'll have a special guest or not just yet. I'm gonna leave it as a surprise. But make sure you tune into that from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do that call every Tuesday. So you got a burning career question that you have, please jump on the call. We'll be more than happy to answer you. And it's not just me. We have women who call from all over the U.S. on these calls. And if I can't answer, they can. So it's all about us learning from each other.
Yeah.
And sharing our expertise, or sharing what we know, sharing our experiences, and that's what it's all about. So just want to go ahead and share those 2 things with you. And then last but not least, want to make sure that you guys are tuning in to our professional development series. We're going to be doing another one talking specifically about your work balance in terms of how you're balancing things out in the workplace, not work-life balance, not work-life integration, But really, are you balancing things out at work? And we're going to give you about 4 ways to talk about how you can do that, or how you can recognize if you need that. So that's going to be our next professional development on your career series, which should be in 2 weeks. So just want to share that with you guys. I want to leave you with a quote from a famous pastor, which is not my quote. I just messed that up, Zena. I want to leave you with a quote from a pastor, a famous pastor, which is, the life God gave you is larger than the life that you've been living. And what that means to me is that God gives us all special gifts, but it's our responsibility to find out what those gifts are and use those to the best of our ability in working in our purpose. So with that, I'm going to leave you with my quote, which is, know your worth, discover your strength, and work in your purpose. And for ladies, for those of you who are new on our on our career conversation tonight, please join us at bcwnetwork.com. And until next week, I want you guys to have a great, fabulous Nestle work week. Zena, hold on so I can talk to you afterwards. And you guys, this video will be available for replay in a few minutes. So have a good rest of the week. And
bye, ladies.
Bye.